I am holding on to some behind-the-scenes whispers that suggest the writers are about to cross a line we never thought they would cross. If you think you know how this current crisis is going to end, I need you to throw all your expectations out the window right now. The leaked scripts that are floating around in the darkest corners of the studio suggest a bloodbath is on the horizon, and it involves some of our most beloved, legendary figures. We are talking about a permanent, earth-shattering exit that will leave this town completely paralyzed with grief. Grab a tissue, because what I am about to share with you is going to shatter your heart into a million irreparable pieces. It seems like the writers are preparing to take Britt down a path of unimaginable terror, facing the absolute worst danger she has encountered since the day she returned to this unforgiving town. High chances are that the person orchestrating this nightmare is none other than Anna. Yes, you heard me right. We have all been watching Anna slowly unravel, her brilliant mind being poisoned by those relentless, terrifying hallucinations of Peter. What if those hallucinations finally push her entirely over the edge? The truth might be way more complicated than a simple mental breakdown. It seems like the ghost of Peter is going to convince Anna that Britt is the enemy, forcing her into a state of total psychosis where she believes the only way to protect herself and her loved ones is to eliminate the perceived threat. This hush-hush rumor suggests that Anna, completely blinded by her delusions, will ambush and kidnap Britt, dragging her away into the dark abyss of her shattered reality. What if Anna meticulously plans this abduction using all her decades of spy training, making it nearly impossible for anyone to track them down? High chances are that she will leave behind a trail of confusing clues, specifically designed to throw the police department off her scent. We have to remember that Anna is a master of espionage. Even in her compromised mental state, her foundational skills remain razor sharp. It seems like the entire town will be thrown into a state of absolute panic once the news of the disappearance breaks. Everyone will be running in circles, desperately trying to piece together the fragments of this horrifying puzzle. The unconfirmed leak points to a scenario where the authorities are completely baffled, wasting precious time chasing dead ends while Britt is held captive in an undisclosed, terrifying location, entirely at the mercy of a woman who no longer recognizes reality. Naturally, when a crisis of this magnitude strikes, our minds immediately go to Jason. High chances are that the fans are already gearing up for Jason to ride in on his metaphorical white horse, utilizing his underground connections and lethal skills to track down the missing doctor and save the day. But what if the writers are setting up a massive misdirection? The truth might be way more complicated, and this behind-the-scenes whisper indicates that Jason will not be the hero of this story. It seems like Jason will be intentionally sidelined, perhaps caught up in his own chaotic family drama, or deliberately misled by the false trail left by the captor. This drastic storyline shift is designed to strip away the usual safety nets, leaving the victim entirely vulnerable and forcing an unexpected savior to step into the spotlight. If Jason is out of the picture, then who is going to step up? High chances are that the universe is going to awaken the most fierce, unstoppable force in nature, a mother protecting her child. It seems like Liesl is going to be the absolute center of this impending war. The unconfirmed leak suggests that as soon as the whispers of the disappearance reach her ears, Liesl will experience a chilling, undeniable maternal intuition. She will feel in her bones that something is terribly, fatally wrong with her daughter. What if Liesl realizes that waiting for the authorities is a death sentence? The truth might be way more complicated than a simple rescue mission. This is about a mother who has already lost so much, refusing to let the universe take her last remaining piece of happiness. It seems like Liesl is going to completely bypass the official channels, going totally rogue in her desperate quest. High chances are that she will arm herself with a deadly weapon, transforming from a grieving mother into a ruthless hunter. What if she taps into her own dark, twisted past, utilizing the survival skills and tracking abilities she honed over decades of being on the run? The hush-hush rumor details how Liesl will meticulously retrace the steps, finding the microscopic clues that the police completely overlooked. The truth might be way more complicated than anyone realizes, as Liesl operates entirely off the grid, fueled by a potent mixture of pure adrenaline, absolute terror, and a fierce, burning love for her daughter. She will not sleep, she will not eat, she will only hunt. According to this unconfirmed leak, Liesl's relentless pursuit will eventually lead her far away from the bustling city streets, deep into the isolated, unforgiving wilderness. High chances are that she will discover a remote, dilapidated cabin hidden deep within the woods, a place completely cut off from civilization. What if this is the secret location where the captor has been hiding her victim? It seems like the atmosphere will be thick with dread as Liesl approaches the decaying structure, her weapon drawn, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. The truth might be way more complicated than a simple break-in. Liesl will have to navigate the perimeter with extreme caution, knowing that one wrong move could trigger a deadly reaction from the unstable woman holding her daughter hostage. The behind-the-scenes whisper paints a heartbreaking picture of the moment Liesl finally breaches the cabin. High chances are that she will find Britt bound, battered, and terrified in the dim, suffocating shadows of the room. What if the emotional weight of that reunion momentarily paralyzes them both? It seems like Liesl will rush to her daughter's side, tears streaming down her face as she desperately works to untie the cruel knots binding her wrists and ankles. The truth might be way more complicated, as this tender, fragile moment of rescue is destined to be violently interrupted. Just as Liesl manages to free her daughter and they prepare to make their desperate escape into the safety of the night, the heavy wooden door will swing open and the nightmare will step back inside. It seems like Anna will return to the cabin at the exact worst possible moment, blocking their only exit. High chances are that Anna's eyes will be completely devoid of reason, completely consumed by the dark, whispering voices of her hallucinations. What if she doesn't see a mother trying to save her child, but instead sees agents of the enemy, manifestations of the ghosts that have been tormenting her fractured mind? The truth might be way more complicated than a simple misunderstanding. This unconfirmed leak suggests that an explosive, earth-shattering confrontation is about to ignite within those four cramped walls. A battle not just for survival, but a tragic collision of trauma, madness, and maternal devotion that will leave permanent scars on everyone involved. High chances are that the fight will be absolutely brutal, a chaotic blur of flying fists, desperate struggles, and shattered wood. It seems like Anna, fueled by the superhuman strength of her psychosis, will launch a terrifying assault on the two women. What if Liesl, realizing that her daughter is too weak to fight back, throws her own body into the line of fire, taking the brunt of the vicious attacks? The truth might be way more complicated, as Liesl is forced to match the sheer, unhinged ferocity of her opponent. This hush-hush rumor describes a scene of absolute carnage, where every piece of furniture becomes a weapon, and every second feels like an eternity of agonizing pain and terror. Liesl will fight like a lioness, roaring with a primal fury to protect her precious cub from the jaws of death. But what if the situation spirals completely out of control? It seems like the tragic climax of this drastic storyline shift will happen in a split second of pure, unfiltered desperation. High chances are that as the attacker gains the upper hand, preparing to deliver a fatal strike to the innocent victim, the desperate mother will be forced to make a split-second, unthinkable choice. The truth might be way more complicated than a calculated murder. It will be an act of pure self-defense, a tragic accident born from the chaos of a life-or-death struggle. The unconfirmed leak reveals that Liesl, in a blind panic to save her child, will strike a massive, devastating blow. A fatal hit that will instantly stop the attacker in her tracks, bringing the violent struggle to a sudden, deafening halt. It seems like the aftermath of that fatal strike will be the most harrowing moment in the history of this show. High chances are that the legendary beloved spy will collapse to the floor, the life slowly fading from her eyes as the hallucinations finally fall silent. What if the realization of what she has just done crashes down on Liesl like a tidal wave of horror? The truth might be way more complicated than a simple victory. This behind-the-scenes whisper suggests that the death of such a monumental legacy character will send shockwaves of unparalleled grief and controversy throughout the entire town. A legendary hero, brought down not by a supervillain, but by a grieving mother fighting for her daughter's life in a tragic, senseless misunderstanding fueled by mental illness. High chances are that the cost of this survival will be incredibly steep. It seems like both the mother and daughter will be left severely, critically injured from the brutal confrontation, their bodies broken and bleeding on the cold wooden floor beside the fallen legend. What if their rescue is a hollow, bitter victory? The truth might be way more complicated, as the authorities eventually swarm the cabin, finding a scene of unimaginable tragedy. This drastic storyline shift will undoubtedly launch a massive, highly controversial investigation. Will the mother be hailed as a hero who did what she had to do, or will she face severe legal and moral repercussions for ending the life of a town icon? The unconfirmed leak guarantees that the emotional fallout will destroy families and divide the community forever. It seems like the psychological trauma inflicted upon the survivors will be permanent. High chances are that the daughter will be haunted by the memory of her mother taking a life to save hers, a heavy, suffocating guilt that will linger long after their physical wounds have healed. What if the mother is forced to stand trial, her maternal devotion scrutinized by a town mourning their fallen hero. The truth might be way more complicated, as the line between right and wrong becomes hopelessly blurred in the face of such profound tragedy. We are looking at a future where nothing will ever be the same, where the ghosts of this remote cabin will haunt these women for the rest of their days. Keep your eyes wide open and trust absolutely no one, because the shadows in this town are growing darker, and the next victim might just be the person standing right behind you.